Hi guys! So for today's video I'm going to use a backdrop die from Fawn, as well as a grassy border die, a little banner die from one of the, I think it's a scallop treat box die set, no it's shadow box die. And the stamp set I'm going to use is the Spooky Village, which I've coloured in using Portfolio's water soluble pastels. So I use them to just to colour them in, just with a paintbrush and a bit of water. So I've got a standard A2 size card there, just as the base of the card. And I'm now going to take the greeting and I'm going to try and curve it so that it fits on the banner. There's a couple different ways you can do this. I was going to use an acrylic block, and then I remembered that actually if you use the sheet, like the one side of your stamp sheet, you can actually kind of press it into that over top of the shape that you want to get it into. That makes sense. So I've done that, and I'm going to just stamp in some VersaFine Onyx Black ink straight onto there. I like this ink. It's a nice deep rich kind of black ink. It does stay wet for a little bit, so I'm going to leave it to one side for a bit. So that's that there. And then I have this backdrop die, and when I cut it out I used some black, very very old, like the stuff is like over 10 years old, glitter cardstock, and it's kind of weird. It's so old. I think I'm just gonna have to get some new glitter cardstock. It goes everywhere, but it's sort of lost its glitteriness. I think it's just too old now, but it worked well. It sort of looks a bit distressed, so that I'm okay with that. And I'm going to stick it straight onto the base of the card, so that there's almost like a comic strip kind of thing going on, storybook thing. And with that die I actually cut it out twice. Once in fact I cut it out 3 times. Once in the blue, some navy cardstock, so that I could use the inserts or the blocks that come out from it. I could use those as inserts for like a night sky. And then I also used it to die cut the grassy borders that you'll see in a minute as well. So it was quite a bit of die cutting, so I thought, well, I'll do that first and then get that out of the way, so you don't have to watch me die cut everything. Yeah, so die cut those pieces. So sometimes if you want that sort of, I mean, you can cut these blocks out yourself. You can sort of measure them and just cut them out. They're just straight blocks. There's no stitching detail or anything like that on the center pieces. So you could just cut squares and rectangles, and that'll work too. Or just put one piece of navy behind it. That would have worked as well, actually. So here I'm just putting all these little grassy pieces together, and there is one that is slightly thinner than the other one, so I just try to work out which one it was that I needed. So yeah, just because I'm a bit OCD, so it has to be the same one, same one with the same one. Anyway, so there's my grassy background. You're actually not going to see too much of it by the end of it, because it gets hidden quite a lot. But it's there, and I know it's there, and it just adds a little bit of a ground for the Spooky Village. So I stamped these, and I think these are the ones I heat embossed. Yes, they are. I've heat embossed them with some Black Nouveau embossing powder, and then I coloured them in and then die cut them with my brother Scan and Cut. So what I'm doing here is I'm rubbing out all the pencil marks, because sometimes there's so much detail on a stamped image that the scanner will struggle to find that outside edge, if you know what I mean. So sometimes when there's a ton of detail, or they're really tiny images and these are tiny little things, then I just kind of help the scanner so it knows where it's looking. And so that's what I did. But I also found, and this is because it was black embossing powder, which is why I don't normally use it. You'll see in a minute, I'll start to trim around the edges as well. So where the embossing powder landed up sticking, I didn't realize how much it actually gripped the card. The scanner picks it up, so it cut round those things. So these tiny little specks of embossing powder that got heat set made the line around the around the images a little wobbly. So you'll see I'm just trimming them to make them look a little straighter. If you've got the dies, the coordinating dies, you obviously won't have this problem, but I'd never seen it do it before. So it was kind of amusing at the same time, but I had to sit and just trim them just so that it looked a little neater. So yeah, it's all experience. So I think it was just where there were extra speckles of the embossing powder that then got heat set, and I didn't realize they were there. So you can dust them off before you heat set, but obviously once they're set, they're set. So, and now I'm just trying to figure out what I want to put where, and I do change my mind a few times, so you'll have to excuse that. These were super fun to put together, really easy. In the end, I didn't use the fence panel at all. I just didn't put it in at all. But what I did when I started doing this is I wanted another nice way of using your stamps as well is to stamp them all out and color them in, and that's not only do you get part of, I guess, a project done if you're looking to put it together as a card or a scrap of page or whatever it is, but also it gives you a chance to actually play with the stamps themselves. So sometimes I'll do this and I won't actually make a project, I'll just play, with different coloring techniques or different coloring mediums or things like that. So that's kind of what I was doing here, although I knew I was going to make a card for you guys, but I like playing around with the colors and that. So what I did was I stamped one of everything. That's why I've got one little fence panel, but obviously if you wanted more than one fence panel you could obviously do that, so you've got like a string of them, or if you've got something like the Brother Scan and Cut, you can stamp a bunch of them next to each other, so you've got a long fence, and then get the Scan and Cut to cut them out. So that could work too. So I just, like I say, just stamped one of each image, and there was more than enough to go on this card. There's tons of images here. So, even though it's two different size bats and there's only, that's what I've got 2 bats, it works with the way that I've done this. Obviously, like I say, you can cut more than that out. But it's just, I love how it turned out. Actually, when I was making it, I wasn't sure. I was thinking, oh, is this going to turn out okay? When you start doing a project and then you're like, oh, I'm really not sure. This just seems a bit naff. But in the end, it worked out really well, and I actually quite like how it turned out. Even with my slightly retro distressed frame in 900-year-old glitter cardstock, but it worked. So just getting all the little images stuck on there. I was going to stick some of the, maybe the houses or some of the images, I was going to pop them up on some foam tape, but in the end I just decided actually to stick them flat was fine. And also my sentiment's going to be popped up, so I didn't want that to interfere with the images themselves. Although you can get around it, it's not a big deal, but I just decided this was the easier option at this stage. So just putting them all together, creating my little scenery. And I love cards like this. It's almost like there's a little story, and I think that's why I like scene cards, ones where you build a little scenery of something that's going on. I think that's why I love them, because they tell a little story, and you can have this whole almost like a picture book going on. So this is the final part of it, just popping the sentiment on, and then I'll show you the final card once I can get this in place, because it took me a minute or two. So like these things do. As long as you don't press down too hard on your things like your foam tape and that, you should be okay to lift it off fairly easily to place it where you want it, which is what I did. And that's it, guys. It's a very cool card. I actually really like how it turned out. Oh, and I coloured the houses in rainbow order, and then that's the order that I put them in on the card, if that makes sense. So I hope you like this video. I hope you are having a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to see more from me. Happy Halloween, guys. See you later. Bye.